Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the First Mind podcast. I have a very special guest with me today. I would like to introduce all of you to Miss Luba. Um, Luba is just a radiant soul, and I'm so excited to have this opportunity to talk to her and for you all to get to know her in the way that I've gotten to know her. So I'm going to give Luba the mic and let her introduce herself to you and tell you a little bit about who she is and what she does. Um, Luba, would you like to go?
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored, to be honest. It's funny when I think about our first interaction and how we started to talk. I remember you were like, but you don't really talk that much. So, like, what? And I was like, that's really funny that you say that because I actually have a lot to say. And I think I say it non-verbally sometimes. I think it's a lot of things that it's the way my mind thinks. So I try to like post how I feel and my way of thinking. But anyway, enough about that. Um, I'm Luba. Hi guys. Hi everyone. Um, I am first and foremost a lover. I'm a lover girl at heart. My name actually means love in my language. I'm Russian for most people who do not know that. And I am a social media content creator. And I've been doing that for a few years now. And yeah, kind of trying to keep people inspired. And I think right now I'm in a place of healing and self love and um, wanting to make women feel good about themselves, whether it's through my posts, whether it's through fashion, whether it's through beauty, um, building that community. That's like been a big thing for me during my own healing journey. And that brings me here today with you. So,
Yes. Um, I want to tell the audience a little bit about how this connection happened um, because I think it speaks to some of the things I talk about in regards to my healing journey. So, probably about a year, maybe even a year and a half ago, the buzzword was soft life, right? Everybody was talking about like I'm living a soft life, like this is soft life. And I remember hearing the words and liking the sound of it, but not really, understanding what that meant, or at least what it meant for me. Um, and as I was going through my healing journey, I got to a place where I was kind of past the complaining, past the anger, and I was moving into a space of forgiveness and grace for myself, for people who I feel like had wronged me. So I felt myself getting softer, if you will. In that, I think I just started gravitating towards women who were exemplifying what I felt was a softness or a femininity, and just were kind of really in that energy. So I happened to stumble upon your page, and it was before I even knew like you were modeling. It was so funny because I was following you, and then ironically, one day, one of the fashion pages I follow, you were the model on the page. And I was like, that looks like the same girl who I follow, on my page. And then it turned out that it was. But I followed you, Luba, because you your aesthetic is beautiful. I mean, that's a given. The fashion, the beauty, the, femininity, but also in the rare quotes that you would post, because you don't always post words, but when you would post words, they also had a very softness to them. Like it just felt loving. It really did. It really just felt loving. And I gravitated towards that energy because I think I was in a space where I wanted to learn more about that for myself. Like I want to be a lover. I want to say that. I'm a lover too. And I don't think I've always felt safe to say that or to be that. So that's what gravitated me towards your content for sure. And then we just, yeah, we started it it went down in the DMs, I guess. Like, we started exchanging just little tidbits from the content that I would post and then from the content that you would post. And we would have these amazing conversations. And I just um, really knew that you were somebody who I wanted to get to know better and wanted to know like what your story was. So that's my story of how you came to be here. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but that is what drew me to you.
That is so sweet. Thank you. Thank you for that. I remember doing a retreat once with women, right? Women would sit around and they said that the reason they were in the retreat was because they've never felt safe around other women. And I remember sitting there and looking at everybody like, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't have girlfriends? What do you mean you never felt supported by a woman? What do you mean a woman was jealous of you? I couldn't wrap my brain around that because I'm such a girl's girl. I am such a supporter of women. Like, I am the definition of girl code if we got to take it there. And I love women. I love women. I love bonding with women. I love hearing women's stories, where they come from. I want to hear the pain. I want to hear everything. I want to hear the joy, the pain, the story. I want to know story. I'm a very curious, inquisitive soul, you know? And you probably don't know this, but when I first started my Instagram page, it was strictly a quotes page. That's how people knew me. It was only quotes. Like, what you do today is what I was doing back then. Back then, you didn't have the option of the slides and the carousel of like 10 things. But yeah, I would post a lot of quotes. And in between, I would post like a selfie or something. Um, but that has always been my thing, right? So when I saw your page, I just right away was like, I love how she thinks. I love how she thinks. I love what she posts. And I gravitated to that, and I think that I don't really just follow just anybody, really. So that's kind of how I connected with you, and I'm literally, every time you post something, I'm like, oh my God, yes, oh my God, it resonates. And I think that when I do that, I may not post on my page, I post the stories more. I have a lot of women that reach out to me and say, oh my God, I needed to hear that. Oh my God, that resonated with me. Um, I love how you think. And that's like a really incredible compliment. Like, I'm still
Hmm.
in a phase in my life of actually knowing how to receive a compliment because I've struggled with that for a long, believe it or not, even in what I do, when people compliment me, I don't even know what to say. It's like that meme where it's like, you're beautiful. You're like, happy birthday. Like you don't even know what to say. You don't even know how to receive that. Right. Um, so just connecting with women in not just fashion or beauty, even though a lot of women reach out to me and are like, thank you so much. I needed to see that, or I would love to see more of that. Or, you know, I love how you do your makeup. Can you do more of this? I love how you put this together. Or just even women saying, like, I bought that outfit that you just posted and I love it. And that to me is like, okay, I'm doing something here, That makes me feel good.
Absolutely.
That's like the compliment for me personally, more than just like, oh, I love your looks. It's like, okay, thank you. I'm grateful. I'm like, I thank my parents. But um I love when women reach out and say to me that I made them feel, I lifted their spirits, um, I made them look in the mirror and love themselves a little more. That is what really makes me feel like I'm living out a purpose, and maybe that is my purpose and how I connect with women and in my own self healing journey, really. That's how it all kind of started, more
I
so.
agree. I'm also a woman's woman, and I've been very fortunate to have really good connections with women. I talk about that on my page all the time. Women have really been a salvation and a refuge for me. I think your content though, it made me like, it made me feel like you must have, which is going to be a segue into what our topic is for this podcast. But I was like, this girl must have like romantic love on lock. Like she just must be, because that's what the feeling, it wasn't like it was like, she must just be a love. Like she knows how to love. Like she must be an expert at loving people. Cause that's
Hmm.
what the paid exudes. And then to find out that your name means love, like I think there is a lot of you know, energy that your vibration gives off that just feels very loving. And I wanted to learn that. Like I want to be softer. I want to be, more loving. I was coming off of just a journey that was, I was angry about a lot of things and upset about a lot of things. And I was trying to transition out of that and kind of seeking a more loving space. So that's what I saw. Um, so interestingly enough, we are doing this podcast episode in celebration of Sweetest Day. And if you are not from the Midwest, you probably are like, what is Sweetest Day? But I am from Cleveland, Ohio. So shout out to Cleveland. And we celebrate a holiday called Sweetest Day. And I was going to tell you the whole history of it, but I'll kind of summarize and say that Sweetest Day is kind of like a reverse Valentine's Day, if you will. So it is where the women are supposed to celebrate the men. So Valentine's Day is the day where, women get treated. And then Sweetest Day is the holiday where men are supposed to be treated. And again, it's some probably Hallmark person who developed this. But
I love that. Not to cut you off, I don't think we celebrate men enough.
so that was actually going to be kind of my introductory question to you is, have you ever like taken a man out on a date or planned a date or treated a man?
I have. I think there were moments that I may have wanted to, and I wasn't given the space to do so. Because a man's like, I got it. I don't need this. It's cool. So it's interesting. Like we think about like, what is love, right? How do we, what is our definition of love? And I think for me, that's changed over the years. What I thought love wasn't, for me. I think my childhood plays a lot into that, and I don't think I knew what love was for a really long time. I think that I was on a quest for that, wherever I can get that, whatever that was to me, even breadcrumby, but I just want to feel needed and loved and appreciated just for being myself. I think that my last relationship that I was in really shed light on that, where I was like, wow, I've never experienced love before. And when you've never experienced healthy love, you don't know how to receive it, because I felt safe in chaos before. So then when you have somebody that wants to hold you and be there for you and support you and love you, you're just like, the shoe's gonna fall off the other foot at some point. Like I started to self-sabotage, and I really started to be like, wow, I don't think I know what love is, like with myself, because I think love starts from within us.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's self-love, really. I don't think that, I don't know how to say, I'm not going to say that we don't know. I think we obviously we can love people, right? And we do love, and I have loved. But I think I think it's more so filling the piece, like just trying to find the missing pieces to yourself through other people.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know? And I think
So do
that
you feel like you have traditionally been the lover as opposed to the receiver of the love?
in my past, yes, right? I do feel like I was always the one giving.
Okay.
Um, because I just wanted the love back, you know? Um, and I think you tend to question yourself, really, is that like coming from a place of love or fear?
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think ego is like a huge thing, you know? Um, and so I think that and I was like that all across the board, not just with my romantic relationships or people that I was in situationships with. It was with friendships. Like I didn't want to rock the boat. So I wouldn't, I would people please for a really long time. So whatever you want, whatever, it's cool with me. I didn't have a voice for a very long time. And I think that when I started to have a voice, it was like it went from one extreme to another, where it
Mm-hmm.
almost felt like I almost was like selfish, you know, selfish with myself. Um, Finding the balance in that has been like a process. Because you're like, you don't know what it took me to get here. You don't know how long it took me to have a voice and to stand up for myself. You don't know how, you know what I mean? And like, people may not understand your journey or where it comes from. And they're like, oh, she's selfish, or you're entitled, or you're this, or you're that. And it's like, no, I'm just a little girl just trying to really be loved and
Yeah.
safe. And I think when it comes to romantic relationships, I think a lot of us, it's not there. Well, I'm not going to speak for everybody else, but for myself, um, it's just been a journey of love to me is unwavering. Love to me is growth. Love to me is being free to be you. Love to me is feeling safe. And love to me is a home, but like finding a home within yourself too, I think is so important. And love is patience and just embodying all of those things, you know? I don't know.
So
Love
you've
is such
already
a
you've already answered question one. I didn't like I was just trying to see where you took the man on a date to, but we're gonna come
oh, I'm
back to
sorry.
that.
Well,
We're
well,
gonna come back.
what I was trying to go with that was um listen, I'll go out with you and I'll pick up the tab, right? Like it's okay. You don't always have to pay.
What
Like
about but never like have you like taken a man on a picnic or like
um
catered to like we got Beyonce catered to you type energy? Like have you ever
yes,
catered to a man in that way?
I'm trying to think of like honestly like my past experiences. Um I have, but I wasn't in a space with those people to really do it the way that I would want to do it, right? And I've done things that I think that I don't want to say this because I feel like I'm going to sound crazy. Not that they weren't deserving, but is that messed up for me to say? Where I'm like, I don't know, not that they weren't deserving of it, because it was coming from like a really good place, right? A pure space, but um, they didn't have the space to appreciate it for what it was at the time, for me, and
So you gave it, they couldn't receive it.
they couldn't receive. And then I happened to be on the other side of that,
Mhm. Yes.
where I did not know how to receive. I had somebody who was literally giving me the whole world, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe in it. It was so hard for me to trust that.
So as you say that, our our opening question is who taught you how to love? Like who taught you what your definition is today of love?
Who taught me how to love? I don't know if I would say I was ever really taught how to love, right? Growing up, what you see is what you believe to be what love is, right? And I would see the tumultuous relationship between my father and my mother. And I was like, oh, this is love. My dad is just like, I'll never leave you. I love you. I don't love anyone but you. And my mother could, it was just like a back and forth of, and you're just like, okay, so this is what love is, and it was pain and it was hurt and it was yelling and all of these things. And as a child, you don't have those conversations with your caretakers. They're not sitting you down and saying, well, this is what love is. I didn't understand what repair was. I've never seen repair in my life. I've seen people fight, avoid, and then 2 weeks later everything's fine. So you don't even talk about anything. So I grew to be this person that, well, we'll get to that, but I didn't know how to apologize in my relationship, you know? And it wasn't because I didn't want to, but I think it was for, my, from a lot of my childhood, I felt like I needed to apologize in order to be loved. I needed to be
Mm.
the perfect child to be loved. I needed to show up a certain way. I needed to be quiet to be loved. Like, so that was to me like love is pain. So if somebody hurts, they really do love you, you know? And and I think that when you really don't have a healthy understanding of what love is, like you're on this quest and on a search for that in your friendships, in your relationships, um, and you just look to other people to see what that is like. You know what I mean? And so
Mm-hmm.
I don't really, it took me into my adulthood and probably my last relationship to really start to look at what is love. And wow, I got to experience what that is, like the purity of it.
So
And
what would you say it is now? Like, how do you define it now?
um, I think love for me is authenticity and feeling safe within myself.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt safe in myself. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and love to me today is loving myself, like really loving myself. Before it was like, yeah, you can read scriptures, you can read books, but if you're not like implementing that into your life, what does it really mean? You
Mm-hmm.
know? And and that's kind of where I'm at. It's more about the self-love for me more than anything right now. And the
Mm-hmm.
growth. But also just not only just finding a home within yourself, but I think love to me just in general is like a safe space. Like just feeling you could just kick off your shoes and be in someone's presence and not have to say a word and it's okay. You know?
I think
Like
that's a really good definition. And I think that is what we really all are seeking, you know? Even in when I work with clients who are avoidant, like they're manipulating and trying to find ways to avoid connecting, but under that is really a desire for connection. um the avoidance comes in the fear. You talked a little bit about the fear. So um yeah, I think that that is what we all seek, is to be able to just be authentically ourselves with another human, for them to be authentically themselves. I recently read something that said love is where two people come together and make each other want to be better for yourself. Like, we're together, and the way that you love me makes me want to love myself more.
mhm.
I thought that
Yeah.
was a pretty beautiful
No,
definition.
that is a really beautiful definition. I think for me, I've always had this like I romanticize love, right? I feel like I can look at a person and say we love them. Yes, we love them for who they are, but I will love you for your potential too, right? I can see who you are underneath all of this, and how deep you can go. And sometimes, you know, people can only meet you as deep as they've met themselves. And that really is the truth, right? Um, but I think also craving intimacy, right? I think a lot of us don't really understand what intimacy is. And because we're starved of that, any little thing is like, I'm going to hold on to that. That means that it's love. Like we talk about it all the time. You think that you have the best sex with somebody that is like the most toxic connection, but it's because you don't have anything else from that connection but that. So you're going to hold on to that and be like, oh my God, this is the most incredible, but it's not. That's all you know it to be, you know? And when you don't heal that and then you go into something that is so healthy, you're just like, all right, this is boring. I need drama. And then you start to recreate the same patterns, the same cycle, because like you want to feel. So that's the only way you know how to feel. That's what feels safe to you. And I have
So in expressing that, how have you managed to evolve out of that? The self-sabotaging, the chaos is love, the toxicity is love, that kind of high and low and being addicted to the changes and challenges. How have you managed to heal and evolve out of that?
um I think I'm still healing, to be honest. I think I started to really get a grasp of what that is and what was happening for me when I was in my relationship. I think when my relationship ended is when the work really began for me, where I was like, wow, okay, this is what was happening. This is why it was happening. I believe that relationships are a mirror to ourselves. People always say, heal first, then get in a relationship. I don't really believe in that. I think, yes, you should be on a journey to healing, but I think that a partner is going to be your greatest healer because they will put up that mirror. You just have to be ready to do the work. If you're not ready to do the work, you just keep switching out partners because you feel like it's them, it's not you. But you're like the domino effect, really. You got to look at yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it's like change the dance that you do with somebody, not the partner.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I think certain people trigger certain things in you. Um, but again, self-awareness is important. I didn't have that for a long time. I was like, oh, I'm the one that's fine. Like everything, it's the other person. I'm perfect and I'm all these things and it's them. And they're emotionally unavailable. And it's like, well, because you're emotionally unavailable. There's a part of me I won't even open up to myself. I don't, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm attracting this person. Because the minute they're all in, I'm going to be like, okay, all right, let's take a step back. This is a little too much. And I remember my last relationship was like, am I afraid of commitment? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, I used to be the girl that's like, oh, if you're in a different city, great. If it's long distance, great. I don't have to see you all the time. I can live my life. I can do you know what I mean? Like, just not to get too close. Like, that I thought
Mm-hmm.
was my ideal relationship. And then I got into a relationship with somebody that lived in my city and I was with them all the time. And I'm not going to lie, that was very, not weird, but it was like, okay, this is a little much. Like, let me keep a little distance. And then we ended up moving in together. And I just remember I looked at him and I just wanted to like crawl into his skin. That's how much like I wanted to be enmeshed with him. Like I didn't even want a day apart from him. And I was like, oh my God, who am I? Like this isn't, I was never this girl. But I think just finding somebody that wants to do that wants to figure it out with you. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
really what I'm in search for. It's like I'm never gonna have it all together all the time. I have my shortcomings. I'm working on myself, right? And I don't want somebody that's gonna appease me all the time and not say something because then you're gonna end up resenting me, you know? I want somebody who challenges me. Um, I'm a very passionate person. I always say this, like not to get into astrology, but if you know anything about it, my moon sign is an Aries. So I'm very passionate. I'm very reactive. I'm very impulsive. I'm very emotional, temperamental, all those things. Um, but like learning how to manage that, right? But still show up as me, just knowing that like I am going to be passionate. I am impulsive. I am reactive. But 5 minutes later, I'm over it, you know? And just somebody that's like, all right, not this is who you are and I'm just gonna, but challenge me. And
Yeah.
knowing that, it's like we talk about when somebody's like, why do you want to argue all the time? And it's like, I'm not arguing. I'm trying to communicate, but you take it as arguing. I think that's like, all right. that's your work to do. If you find that I'm always constantly to you, I'm arguing, maybe you don't know how to communicate effectively. I don't know how to communicate. I'm still learning how. I tend to shut down, and that's just as toxic as anything else in a relationship.
So having somebody who you can work through that together with instead
Yeah.
of it, yeah, being a competing thing. Iyanla Vanzant, she defines intimacy as into me see.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were feeling like, and I've had those experiences where I preferred to have a long distance relationship, and I do understand now what that's about. But what do you think your fear was of somebody seeing into you? If intimacy is see into me, like what do you think the fear was? Um, if somebody saw the real you?
Um, that I wouldn't be loved for me. Um, I think that we accept a lot of you know things in relationships and friendships is because we think that's what we deserve. That's what we're worth, you know? And I just want to be, I think I just always wanted to be just loved.
Yeah, I think that fear and anxiety of being truly seen for who you are and being loved for the messiness that we can be, and just loved fully and completely, is an anxiety that a lot of us have. A lot of us struggle with that. Um, and I know for me, a big part of that was having just, and maybe you can speak to this for yourself, but having a caretaker who really I had to work hard to receive love from. Like I had, like you talked about perfectionism and things of that nature, but I really had to, you know, be the top of the top. I felt the best of the best in order to receive love from my caretaker. And so in therapy, a lot of times, and you and I talked about this before we started recording today, but my therapist would say we tend to gravitate romantically towards the people who emulate the more complicated parent. So whichever caretaker or parent that you had more struggles with, that's who we tend to pick up and kind of desire later on in our adult romantic lives. And so I feel I was often drawn to people who were going to make me work hard to love them. I was going to have to jump through a lot of hoops. I was going to have to, like I was really like, and I liked being in that energy of having to prove myself. Like it was like I wanted the challenge of like, let me show you that I can be loved. Like so, a lot of my, even when I think about it, and I talk about this on Come Hither Energy, it's easy to sit in this space of all men are horrible or all men are dogs or whatever it is, but I really had to get to a place, and this is where my life started to change and transform, where I said to myself, but why are you attracted to this type of man?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm the common denominator. I'm choosing the people. So why am I like, if every single person I'm choosing is making it a struggle to love them,
Uh-huh.
there has to be some onus on my part
Mm-hmm.
that I am the person who is choosing these people, and why am I choosing them? And once I asked myself that question, a whole level of awareness
Yep.
unlocked itself. So
Oh, self-awareness is everything. Accountability is everything. I think what you just said, it's the performing for somebody. And I think to myself when I was in my relationship, my recent one, I remember, wow, I don't have to perform. I can just like throw my leg on you and not say anything and I'm okay, you know? Um, I don't know what that was. I've never had that. And so I think when it goes back to you saying, like, oh, have you ever done anything for somebody like nice? Yes, I have. But I think it was more for to want to be loved. There was something that was
yes.
like, it wasn't as authentic because if I do this, you'll love me. If I do that for you, you'll accept me. You know what I mean? I think in my last relationship, my journey really started with my last relationship, to be honest. I think that he was a catalyst from my growth and my transformation. Um, and I actually started, I could be myself, but I was always fearful. Like, I was always just waking up and thinking to myself, wow, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to be loved like this. Like, it was a constant thing in my mind. And I don't think people really understand the battle that you have internally. Like, you can't just wake up, they're like, oh, have a positive mindset. No, when you really don't believe you're deserving of something or someone, there's no scripture, no affirmation that is just going to have you wake up the next day and be like, oh, this is all. No, I'm thinking the worst case scenario. I'm thinking you're going to leave me. You're going to not be with me. And it's almost like a self prophecy in a way, self
And I
fulfilling
think what,
prophecy. Like, it's
yeah.
crazy.
And I think what happened in my journey is I thought, okay, well, this happens to me romantically, so I'll just stop dating. Like
Mhm,
I'll just stop dating, And so I
mhm,
went through like 3 years after my dad passed away where I just didn't date. And but I did take some big risk. And so in that, what I started to learn is the self-worth stuff, it doesn't just show up romantically. Like
nope.
now it's like I'm trying to get, I'm applying for positions and I'm doing things that I've never done before. And it creeps into those, like
Absolutely.
it's you start to feel like, oh, I'm not good enough for this opportunity, or I'm not good enough, to start a podcast, or who's gonna want to
Mhm,
hear me. Or so it's really like what I came to understand is the universe is gonna give you that lesson. Like you cannot escape the lessons. Like you can't skip them, you can't escape them. Like you are going to get the lesson. So the retreat, the isolation, whatever it is that you think that you're doing to avoid getting
mhm.
to a place of loving yourself and really showing up for yourself, it's going to come to you in other ways. Like you just can't avoid that work.
I think that for majority of my adulthood, I didn't know what that meant. What is work? What is shadow work? Like, we don't know these things. We're not taught these things. Um, so it was just autopilot for me, you know, and attachment to not even so much people, it's attachment to the wounds that we've not healed. And it's the fear of detaching, it's fear of letting go. What, you know what I mean? Like, why was I stuck on those experiences? Why was I stuck? It's not even the people. It's because it's literally the same patterns, the same thing that's happening over and over and over. It's just a different face and a different body, you know? And it caught up to me because I got into a healthy relationship and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to nurture this, you know? I was so I think so much in just I think it was more so I was so disassociated from myself that
So
you
is
don't
that so when
realize.
you talk about, are you referencing your last relationship?
I am referencing, I think a lot of my lessons really
So
came
do you
my
do
last
you
relationship
do you feel like you sabotaged that relationship?
to a degree. I want to say this. I do believe that it takes two people to co-create a reality. Okay.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us will beat ourselves up for making our mistakes. Have I made my mistakes in that relationship? Yes, for sure. I take accountability and own my side of the street, you know? Because I think a lot of the times us women too, we're just in this society and we're just conditioned to be like, it's never our fault. It's always the man, and we're speaking on like we're acknowledging the men today. It's not always us. I mean, it's not always them, it's us too. And I
Yeah,
think that's
because
where the growth comes in
mhm.
to really
Even
be
as
like, go ahead.
even as you talked about the performance is really a manipulation. You know what like you talked about, like it's
Yep.
not it doesn't feel authentic, but that's what it is. The performance is I'm going to try to perform in a way that makes you love me. And
Hmm.
that really is manipulative when you think about it. Um, so yeah, I agree that my life drastically changed when I was able to look at myself instead of it being somebody else's fault all the time.
I think for me in my relationship, it was like a wake up call. It was a wake up call. Um, but I think too that, listen, we don't have the tools, right? We don't know what that is. We don't understand what we understand what conflict is, but we don't understand how to repair that, you know? Um, and that's where the work really comes in. I think the best effort that you can put into a relationship with anyone, not just romantic relationships, is your relationship with self and working on yourself. I
Mhm.
think the better that you are with yourself, the better you show up for others. The self awareness, the, just the skill set of how to manage like your emotions and um, it, just learning different things about yourself and how you can do something differently than how you've done it in the past. And not
Mhm.
really, for me, it was a very flight or fight mode. Like I'll run because I there's a part of me that wants you to come after me and say, don't go, I don't want you to leave because at that moment, if you don't want me to leave, then I'm worthy. Then I am loved. Then you do care about me, you know? And then it's like and if you don't, then right away it's like I'm not worthy. I'm not loved. Um, and you feel abandoned. And with abandonment, it's the rejection, it's the not want to be wanted, and it all comes full circle. It's all connected. You know?
And I think we create it. Like
Oh my God, yes.
you create those feelings because that's what your brain is accustomed to. So you
Yes.
create the abandonment. Like even if you don't realize you're doing it, like you
Hmm.
pull away, like you said, so that they can pull you back in, and sometimes they don't pull you back in. Um a big lesson that came to me recently, one of the first episodes that we did was with psychologist Dr. Lewis Wallace, and we talked about attachment styles. And learning about my own attachment style has been, eye opening in and of itself, but also other people's attachment styles. Because what this now has helped me understand is that a lot of times, what I was maybe perceiving as some sort of mistreatment really has nothing to do with me. Like I was making myself I did a whole video on this. Like I was the reason why people were mistreating me. The
Hmm.
revelation that people are mistreating people because that's just who they are, that's their attachment style, that's their experience, that's how they learned how to love. That also was very transformative to me. Like when I, you know, meet a guy and I really am into him and then he doesn't call the next day, I'm making that about me. But really, it could be that this is a human who doesn't call anybody any day because he is afraid to
Yep.
show up and be seen. And that doesn't have anything to do with me. That's
Yep.
how he treats all the women. Like, so that was a very eye opening experience for me, too.
Attachment styles is crazy. Like, there's a book that my therapist at the time, recommended. It's called Attached, and it was
Yes.
eye opening for me. Um,
Yes.
but I do remember sitting with my boyfriend at the time. I'm like, let's do the attachment style quiz because I just want to understand you better. And he was like, why? Men are just, and I'm like, but that's a way of connecting. That's what it is for me. It's like a connection thing. Like, this is how I can connect with you. I want to better understand you and you better understand me. And I think when I really started to dive into that, and I almost feel like I became a therapist in my own relationship. And we don't want, who wants that too? You know what I mean? Um, but I think for me personally, my boyfriend was my father. Everything that I've been searching for was in front of me. And I think that was another fear of like, I lost him, that means I'm going to lose you too. And I think that I became so comfortable that I almost, like, that little girl in me was acting out because I felt I can be that little girl again. Because really, it's just that little girl standing in front of somebody and being like, I want you to love me, you know? But it's really us that has to love that little girl or that little boy, you know, and show them
Yes.
different and reparent. Like I never really understood the concept of like you got to reparent yourself. And you're like,
I
where
think
do you start?
Yeah, I think one of the things that has been unique about this space is, for whatever reason, the women who come to this podcast are really lovers. Like they really are on a journey of learning how to love themselves so that they can love men better. So that they can relate better to men. And what I sometimes feel, the energy of the men, I don't know if they're always ready to receive that,
I
because that does take
that.
a level of your own introspection, a level of, like you said, you can only meet people as deeply as you meet yourself. So that takes you have to do some very uncomfortable work of getting to know your inner child and figuring out what you didn't get and what you missed. And I think by nature, men are not really taught to practice that. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of resources and skills either, despite I think what society thinks. Like women just, are born to love. Like it doesn't really happen like that. But I think there is more space and opportunity for us to have conversations. Whereas men, that's frowned upon. My hope is that, right now I'm sitting at an 11% male viewing rate, but I'm hoping that I can start to get some men interested. I'm looking to bring men onto the podcast. I have plans for that, but I really want to get men invested and engaged in this conversation of healing, because I just don't get how, if all the women heal
Mm-hmm.
and the men don't,
Mm-hmm.
how does that work? Like that, like how do, like we, I guess the best way to verbalize it is there just really is no singular victory. The men can't win if the women aren't winning, and the women can't win if the men aren't winning. Like there is no singular victory. We have to be able to collectively come together. So I love what you said about, you know, parenting yourself and learning to love yourself so that you can be a better lover. And I think that, the men also have to engage in that work
Well,
and
100%. I think, and again, it comes back to, wanting to do something for somebody, right? And doing it and them not being able to receive it. And that's where I felt like, wow, I get to really be my authentic self, right? But my way of showing up for you or loving you, like I'm the girl that I want to put pimple cream on you when you go to sleep. I'm going to wipe your face down. I'm going to put your retainer into your mouth. Like I want to scrub your back. I want to introduce you to skincare because I think I know it all. I want to tell you how many vitamins you have to take. I want to put lotion on you. And if you miss the spot, I'm going to tell you missed the spot. And if your hair's dry, I'm going to tell you, your hair's like all of these things. But that's my way of showing up and showing you that I love and care for you.
yeah, what do you think the conditions, if you will, have to be for you to be able to show up in that way, in that feminine, caretaking, nurturing way? Like what do you think is best for you to be able to show up that way?
I just have to I feel safe.
Mhm.
I have to feel safe. And
Mhm.
it has to be appreciated, you know? Not to say that my relationship he didn't appreciate. I think he did, but it was almost like there were moments of battles of like, but I know what I want or what I need for my face more than you do. And it's like, you get what
Just
I'm
let
saying?
just let me love you.
Just
Like
let
why
me love
can't you just
you.
let me love you?
That's my way, you know what I mean? And his way, I think, could be something different, but I think that it's really um it's really compromising on what love is, right? And in moments of where you think that I need a gift, right? I just want a hug. That's really what I need. Like I don't care about that. It's great, but I just want a hug. I just want you to hear me. I just want you to really be curious of where my pain comes from, why I am the way. And I'm not saying this in any way of tolerating bad behavior, you know? I want you to challenge me to be better. So if I am showing up shitty, you tell me that I'm showing up shitty. I don't need you to be like, all right, whatever, it's cool. No, it's not cool. You know what I mean? I want to be better, not just for you, but for myself. So if I'm not kind, tell me I'm not being kind, right? But the thing is too, like, I have so many years of this habit, right? Having patience of like, it's not going to just change overnight. It's a practice. You know what I mean? And you made me more aware of it than someone else before you did. You know what I mean? I also didn't have that connection with somebody the way that I have with you. I wasn't close to somebody the way that I was close to you. I can honestly sit here and say that no man from my past has known me like the man that I was with.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing. Doesn't know me inside, nothing. They don't know like how moody I am in the mornings, how bitchy I can be sometimes, how loving I can be. My pain, my past experiences, have seen me fully know make just being me. There's so much more to it, but I think the part that's not sucks about it, but I find interesting is like obviously, like I said, it takes two people to tango and to co-create and really just I also think I want to make a point about this. I don't think that the amount of relationships someone has had makes it successful or equates to being successful relationship or that you know more about relationships than somebody who has been in, let's say, one or two, or has never been in a relationship. They're just learning just how you should be learning because I don't think relationships are failures. I think they're all lessons.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think because someone had 10 relationships, 5 relationships more than you have, that they actually know how to be in relationships. I don't think that at all. I think you should question yourself why you keep going from relationship to relationship. And what are you not learning along the way?
We talk a lot about our dads. We both lost our dads. But one of the things that you said to me that has stuck with me is we both exchanged this story about how we learned how to swim. Mine
Mm-hmm.
was in a pool, yours was in the Black Sea.
Mm-hmm.
But we talked about how our dads, my dad spent a lot of time training me and preparing me. And then one day he just threw me in the deep end and was like, save yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have utilized that for a lot of my life as a metaphor for what this journey is. It's a lot of sink or swim, save yourself, you got to figure it out. And my dad, I think, really wanted to impress upon me that I have the capability within me always to save myself. And so you talked a little bit about that experience with your dad who taught you to swim in a very similar way. But what you said that stuck with me is you don't want to have to save yourself like that anymore. Like you don't want to have to do the drowning and say like
Mm-hmm.
and I had never thought about it that way. So as we go into like the last question and kind of wrapping this up, we talk a lot about Sierra's prayer and,
Mm-hmm.
what was the prayer? What's Luba's prayer? And thinking about, I know you said you don't want to have to save yourself or, do that drowning anymore. Like, what would be your prayer, if you
I
will?
think for me now, it's interesting because I can honestly say that I've lived out Sierra's prayer, right? But I was operating in trauma. And that's a tough thing. It's really tough because when you actually get what you've wanted your whole life, what you've dreamed of, you know, the man, the house, the life, the everything, right? It's just like, it's right here in front of you and you have it. I think what changes the prayer for me is help me sustain it. Help me become the woman that can sustain that. How do I need to be her to sustain that? that for me is like working on me and becoming that woman versus I want the relationship. I had the relationship. I was living out my answered prayer. I was just operating in trauma.
I agree. That is, if I have any anxiety left about love, that is the anxiety, is that I'm going to get everything I want because I just feel it in my soul that it's on its way. And how am I going to be able to receive it? Because that will be a new journey for me. I've never received love, the kind of love that I
Right.
want. So I agree that I think that is a really good way to frame the prayer is just, can you make me ready? Like, can I be ready? Can I sustain it?
I wasn't prepared fully I didn't have the tools, the skills. Like I didn't know, right? The prayer also comes with having a man though that can walk side by side with you. And what goes back to saving, I don't need you to save me. I just want you to hold my hand while I save myself, however way that is, right? And I remember in my relationship saying like, I want to be my best self for you, right? Being our best self for ourselves is a given, but like, I want to be my best self for you. Yes, you saw me at my lowest, you saw me at my worst, you saw me in my good time, but I want you to experience me, right? My best version of me. And I remember the words like, well, you should have been doing that. And that is like, whew, that's a dagger to the heart, because I think that's really unfair. I think that I want someone to say, I want to be here to see that, like, wow, there she is. I knew that that little girl was coming out. You know what I mean? Like that feeling of like, I think love is really somebody walking with you and healing you. I think love is healing,
Yes.
honestly, you know,
Yes.
and seeing it through. It's how rewarding is that, you know? But I
And
don't think, listen, I'm not saying that that needs to be with everybody and that should be like abuse or anything like that. We're not talking about that. Um, but really just being curious about what that pain is for the other person, why that's coming up for them, why they're fighting you, why are they sabotaging, why are they running? It's not that they want to run. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's not it at all. But just finding the this the space for the curiosity and for the understanding of like what shapes us is our past experiences. We're not just these people that just like wake up and like operate in this way. No, that's like all taught, learned behavior, self-protection. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So just somebody being like, I see you. I see you. I see your pain. I see your trauma. I see what you went through. And I think there's nothing greater than somebody like being like, I want to be better. I want to work on myself. I want to be here. I want to be here for you. And I think I posted, it's like, find your person and thug it out with them.
For
Just thug it
sure.
out with them. Cause it's so rewarding. You can look back and be like, damn, like we really made it here. Like, wow, I didn't think I had the capacity. But you know what? You do. I think
And
we
it's
all talk about capacity, but I think that there's like, it's when you think you've done it all, there's that much more I think that you can do. That could be a game changer, you know? And I think again, it's looking to into ourselves. It's that inner work of like, how did I contribute to that? How did I participate in that? What did I do or didn't do that could have changed the outcome of this? Rather than being like, all right, you know what, this ain't working. And let me go find somebody else. Because let me tell you, the next thing is not going to challenge you maybe the same way, right? And then you're just going to be safe. And is there really growth in safety?
mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think having the capacity to hold space for another human,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, and walk with them on the journey. I think a lot of men are invested in the physical building of a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like the structure, the house, the cars, the money. But the emotional work of building a relationship
Mm-hmm.
is a whole nother thing. Like that's a whole nother thing.
It's interesting. I think you saw I posted the other day, Jay-Z's it's off his 444 album, right? The visuals. I think it's incredible. I think everybody should watch that. Um, the transparency between men in a room and the honesty and the growth. And him saying, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm from here, and I'm from there, and I saw this, and I've been shot at, and all these things. He's like, I have never in my life understood how difficult it is to do what I had to do to rebuild a relationship. Like, you don't know how to do that. Most people walk away because that's just the easy thing to do. You know, you just find that you think it's easier to build it somewhere else, but okay, the foundation crumbles, right? Like he said, maybe it wasn't built on 100% truth, right? But what do? That's your person, right? You love them. You pick up the bricks and you rebuild. And that may be even stronger than how it was the very first time. You know what I mean? And like, how
Hmm.
rewarding is that?
Because like we said, you can't escape the lessons. So
Yes,
if your structure failed because you didn't have the capacity to do the emotional work and you just leave the relationship and move
yep.
to another relationship, you're just the pattern's going to repeat itself.
In a
You're
different way,
never,
but it's
yeah.
gonna, yeah,
Yep. Yeah,
it
for
always
sure.
does. And it's just, I think it also made me question. I think you could probably agree to this. It's like, when we say we love hard, is that a trauma response? I've had to really sit with that too.
So that brings me to the last question,
Okay.
which is it more important to love or to be loved?
I say to love.
Why?
I think to love. There's no, it's interesting because I feel like to love and to be loved goes hand in hand,
Mhm.
you know? But I think love is the most powerful thing that you can give somebody, truly. I think when people are like, love is not enough, I don't believe in that actually. I think love is enough. I think with love comes accountability and forgiveness and commitment, and love is a decision. I think a lot of us think that love is a feeling, and that's why it's so fleeting for most of us. When we don't feel it, it's like, oh, this ain't working. But love is a decision and a choice that you make every single day. Whether you like somebody or not, whether you love them or not, you're just like, all right, I made this decision, I love you, and you decide to do that on it's every day, um but it's I can't imagine like leaving this earth and not feeling like I loved. And I want somebody to feel that love, like to break into my heart and to like really feel what that is like to be loved by me. That is
Mm.
really rewarding to me, honestly. Because I'm a lover. Like, and I've loved and I've never been loved back, and that's okay too. But I just know that I loved.
That's
And
beautiful.
that to me is important. Because it's embedded in me. It's my name, it's who I am at the root. And I think love can heal. And I just want to be able to heal someone, however way.
Who
But
came up with your name, Luba? Who named you? Your mom or your dad?
so my grandmother actually.
Oh wow.
Originally my mother said they wanted to name me Maria. I was like, no. And my grandmother was like, please name her Luba. Like it would really mean a lot and all these things. And so they named me after what she asked. And my grandmother passed away when I was 6 months old. So I never even got to meet her. But I'm like, I that's who I am. I know I come off really, I don't think I look very approachable sometimes. I have a very like resting, almost bitch face. I don't smile. People are always like, It's like the number one annoying question. It's like, why don't you smile? It's like, I'm smiling on the inside. Let me just
Mhm.
be, you know? But I I love and I want to give love and I want to feel love too, you know? But I don't know. I think loving is way more important to me.
I've never gotten resting bitch face vibes.
Aw.
I never have. Like immediately, like I said, I was drawn to your content because I feel the love. Like um I feel that energy from your content. So yeah, I've never felt like that. But what I am thankful for in this conversation is for other people to hear and see that side of you, because I think sometimes the men, they are confused. Like they don't you know what, like they don't take the risk or the chances because they do think, well, you know, she's going to she's the type of woman who's behaved this way. And so for you to come on this episode and just be so vulnerable about, you know, your journey through healing and loving yourself and being able to hold space to love other people, I think helps to just normalize, like, we're all human. Like, we're
Mhm.
all just, you know, it may sound cliche, but we're really all just walking each other home. Like, we really are. And the more grace we can have on that journey for one another, the instead of the, like, I hate where we are in this gender war right now. Like it it's so disheartening to me to see men and women, you know, fighting in this way and manipulating each other in this way. And just, you know, I'm hopeful that just even in this little hour of an episode, somebody will be inspired, you know, to
I mean, I hope so. I think we're all, just like you said, walking with each other on this journey, right? And just
mhm.
trying to live out this love experience and just really embody what it is to love, you
Because we
know?
all want it, man
We
or
all want
woman.
it.
We all
Absolutely.
want it. So it's always been just so curious to me for everybody to want something and for it to still be so hard. You know what I mean?
Because I just think that, again, some of us, a lot of us, have never felt it.
Yeah. Well, I felt it on this episode. Thank
Aw.
you so
Thank you
much
so much for
for
me.
thank you for showing up and being authentic and having this conversation.
Oh
I'm
my God, I
so
could talk about love all day.
I know, and we had a whole conversation before. We even started recording, and I feel like when I stop recording, we're going to talk some more. But what I
Right?
do hope, Luba, is that you will come back, you know, again on this
I would love to.
podcast and talk. We can have more conversations about love. I would love to maybe, you know, get some men on here and get their take, and you know, just kind of talk about what that experience is for them as well, because I think the men have a lot to say too, and maybe just haven't had the space to do that. So if you're a man and you're listening or watching this, you know, reach out if you're interested in coming on the podcast, because we absolutely do want to hear your stories too. So that's it for this
I, I
episode.
I will just add this. I love those seeing a lot more men be open to therapy, to self improvement, self betterment. Um, we didn't have that before. Like, that was unheard of. You never even seen that. You never heard a man talk about them going to therapy. Like, and I love to see it. I love to see men really just want to heal and holding space for them to do so. I think it's beautiful.
I agree. I'm in a place in my life, you know, and I have some male friends who disagree with this, but it would be difficult for me to try to partner with somebody who hasn't done therapy, because I've done so much of it.
100%. I think my question moving forward for whatever relationship, and I'm not ready by any means to date. Like, I just want to be with myself for a while, and I've been that way since my breakup. Um, where I've actually went inward, like really just sat with myself. Moving forward, it's like, do you go to therapy? Have you been to therapy? Where are you with like your healing journey? you know? I think that is so important because
Yeah,
it's like when you start to evolve and somebody's here, it's like, what do you really, it's hard.
it
You
is.
want
And
to
I
be here
think,
with somebody in alignment.
and I've learned that, your cognitive abilities do not necessarily match your emotional ability. Like, so you can be extremely intelligent cognitively and
Hmm.
still be really low in terms of your emotional quotient, like, the capacity to love. And so, yeah, I think for me, I love intelligent conversations, but I
Hmm.
also need to be able to connect with a human in a emotional way. Like I need you to have some fidelity to your own healing, your own journey. So,
And just
yes.
understanding that most people, I mean, a lot of us, we all come into our relationships with our past experiences that we've not healed from or even acknowledged, and we both bring that into all our insecurities, all our shit. And the person that is like the closest to you and the like you're the most intimate with is who's going to bring that out in you just for
Hmm.
you to heal. And I hope that you bring that out in them too. And two people are like, you know what? We've learned toxicity, but we can unlearn that and we can learn healthy because I truly believe that. I truly believe that you can learn healthy and not always just be like, oh, well, this is toxic, on to the next. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you find your person, they'll get out.
Yes, I like that. So, men, you hear two women saying the gifts, all of that is beautiful, but it really is just icing on top of a cake
Hmm.
where you have done the work, because the work is what's going to sustain the relationship. We'll make the money. Like, I'll provide the most beautiful paradise for you to make all the money in the world, but I have to have a feeling of safety, of security, to be the woman and the feminine energy that facilitates that. So, yeah, yes, men go to therapy. And
That,
Luba, thank you.
thank you so much.
I will never end this conversation.
I
So,
know
like,
there's so much to talk about.
there is, but you're gonna come back, and I'm just so grateful to have you, and thank you for,
Thank you for
like I
having
said, being vulnerable and doing this with me.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you for giving me the safe space to do so,
yeah.
making me feel, you know, like I can show up authentically myself, which I
So
know
make
most people are
sure
like, who is she?
you follow Luba. You can follow her on Instagram. Is there anything else you want listeners to know about you? Anything you got coming up, or anything you want?
No, just know that we're all healing and we're all in this together. And I just want to create that safe space and that community for other women and men to feel safe in my presence in that way, and we're all just here living out this human experience together. So it's all about love. Let's spread
Yes.
love. Let's give love. I'm all about that. So, yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And I
Thank
will see
you.
you on the next episode of The First Mind. Take care. Bye bye.